everybody, welcome back to the Convo Couch. I'm here with Caleb Maupin from RT. Caleb, I wanted to get your read on what you experienced today in the area you were in Nicaragua and how the voting process seemed to you compared to what I've been hearing in Western media. It seems like a lot of the journalists that were here had completely different opinions. So what did you see and how would you describe the elections so far?
As one of the international observers, we were given full access. We went to multiple polling places. I was in Chinandega, and what we saw was a group of people in a country that were very optimistic and happy to participate in their electoral process. They went to the polls, they voted, they have a voter identification system where each person is ID'd not only by their name and their address, but also by their photograph. We saw multiple checks and balances to make sure that people didn't vote twice or vote in the place of someone else. And this looks like it's going to be a transparent election and a free election. People will have voiced their will as the public when the results are given. I don't understand how international media can get into this tailspin about how it's somehow not a legitimate election when pretty clearly every effort is being made to make clear that this is transparent and this is a fair process.
Yeah, and beside the legacy media, the Joe Biden administration came out with a statement calling this election a pantomime election. And considering the U.S. record with elections, it seems a little bit hypocritical, but I wanted to get your take on what you thought about Joe Biden's statement and how you think the Nicaraguan government will respond.
Well, Joe Biden's statement was full of deception. You can put a lot in loaded phrases without backing up facts. And when he claimed, for example, that a number of figures who could have potentially been candidates were arrested, none of those individuals were candidates, and they were arrested for real crimes, like going around the world and lobbying for sanctions against their own people for getting international funding and deceiving the government about doing so, and basically concealing where they're getting their international funding from in order to engage in deception, setting up troll farms that spread fake news in order to incite violence against elected officials. They were real crimes for which people were convicted, and none of those individuals that were convicted were in fact candidates. So that entire thing is false. And in addition to that, he insinuated that somehow Ortega is unpopular. That is very, very inaccurate. Ortega is one of the most popular presidents in the world. I mean, at this point, he has raised so many people out of poverty. He has constructed so much infrastructure, power plants. I mean, when he first came into office in 2006, only 52% of the country had electrification. Now it's 99%. Even up in the mountains, some of the most remote areas have electricity. Many countries across the developing world would love to have what Nicaragua has in terms of building hospitals, building schools, reducing maternal mortality and infant mortality. I mean, they have done so much to improve the lives of the population. This is a very popular government, and I think it's very likely they will win the election. We're going to hear the results, but when that comes, we shouldn't be shocked by that because of the real results of what they have implemented through serious, well-thought-out policies dedicated to building a stronger country.
And last question, how do you look at the Nicaraguan elections as compared to the United States elections? We've had many controversies in the United States recently with the Trump versus Biden election. There's a lot of public distrust in the electoral system. How does that compare to the way Nicaraguans handle elections?
Well, first of all, this election was not only on a weekend when everyone is off, but actually a national holiday just to make sure people could go and vote. Our elections are on a Tuesday, and there are huge lines before work and after work, and it's for working families, it's difficult to get to the polls. 16-year-olds got to vote here. The voting age is 16. There are huge efforts to include women in the election and mandate, that women be, nominated, that parties nominate an equal number of men and women. Now, in the United States, if you live in Puerto Rico, if you live in Guam, you live in the U.S. Virgin Islands, you have absolutely no say in who the president is, absolutely no say in who's in Congress or in the Senate. Imagine if Daniel Ortega had picked a part of Nicaragua and said, oh, you don't get a say. This is, the U.S. elections with the Electoral College that minimizes the impact of the voter and basically makes it so if you're in a strongly Republican or strongly Democratic state, your vote pretty much doesn't matter. It has no room to talk here. Every effort has been made. You should take a look at these ballots and how clear they are. You should take a look at how the electoral system is set up to ensure the representation of smaller parties and different groups. Every effort is made to make sure people get to the polls, to make sure that the voice of every voter is maximized in the process. I mean, the details of this electoral system reveal a higher level of democracy and participation than we have in the United States. And of course, you're not going to hear that in American media. The fact that he called it a pantomime election, as if they're just going through the motions, as if this isn't somehow real. The whole country is involved here, and the whole country has been mobilized, and the whole country has really been mobilized to defend these elections, because the forces that don't like Daniel Ortega didn't just participate in the elections, didn't get up and say, okay, we're going to participate and give the people their say. They did everything they could to undermine this process, to try and discredit it with threats, and Joe Biden has been doing that also. With the threat of sanctions, Joe Biden was essentially meddling in the elections here in Nicaragua and saying that if you elect Daniel Ortega, we're going to wreck your country economically with new sanctions. It was a threat. It was a threat. He waited to sign the sanctions bill until the elections happened. That's what he's doing. So he's meddling in politics by using the economic weight of the United States and the global economy to threaten the Nicaraguan people to vote the way that Wall Street wants. And if that's not election meddling, we get so mad that Putin allegedly helped with some memes or something. I mean, you want to talk about election meddling, the threat of sanctions if the results don't go the way you want. That's election meddling if ever there has been such a thing.
Caleb, thank you very much, and we'll look out for your stuff. Where can people find you? Oh,
I'm at calebmaupin.com. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I'm always posting all kinds of different things, written some books, etc.
Thanks, Caleb. Bye.
Yep.